Hi, everybody. David Fogel back with you, CEO of the Symphonina Foundation, back with another Symphonina Foundation podcast. Today, I'm joined by Paul the Trombonist, also known as Paul Nowell. Paul, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. You have for those of us, those of you who can't see at home, Paul has a tremendous collection of trombones behind him. We were comparing notes as who has more. He has trombones or I have saxophones, and he wins. So congratulations, Paul.
Oh, thank you. I like to preserve the history of them because I talk about them on my YouTube channel, so I'll find like vintage ones, and I like to just share what I know about different trombones because I'm pretty fascinated about preserving the history.
Hey, that's a cool topic to start with, actually. What is the history of the trombone? When did it start?
Well, the trombone's been around for longer than trumpets were. So really it was one of the pioneers. I think what's fascinating about it is it was a chromatic instrument before you had to have any components of any like valves or buttons.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I remember like as a kid, I had this little whistle toy and you had a slide in it, right? And you could pull the slide out or put the slide in and make all the tones in between the tones. You'd have to, but that's kind of like a trombone. And I kind of got the idea of that. That was cool. But I guess that must be like,
I guess, yeah.
Kind of the
Go
same.
ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking is like, the difference between a pan flute where you've got different valves, so to speak. As a kid, I had one of those too, a little tiny pan flute that I blew into, not very well, but whatever. Or a harmonica, something that's like one tone, or depending on which way the air is going, maybe it's two. To a trombone, it's an interesting physical design for an instrument.
Yeah, and I think what's fun about it is it came from the sack butt, in the Renaissance area, and that's always an interesting term, sack butt, but it evolved from that.
Okay.
And yeah, I think it started in like the 1400s, and it predated, I think, the trumpet. I don't know don't quote me on this, but I don't think they were able to do fully chromatic until early 1800s. So I believe the early sack butt was able to play chromatically for a couple hundred years, like maybe 400 years before the trumpet was able to. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, you're a young guy. I don't know how old you are, but you're young compared to me. How old were you when you started the trombone? You can't be two when you start the trombone. You can
not two. No.
Yeah.
But I started trombone, I think, in fourth grade.
Okay.
But I was doing music before that.
Okay. So you're probably about 8 years old then or something when you started. So that's very young. Yeah, that's great. What did you get started on?
The banjo.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to ask, did you have a musical family that chose to start you on a banjo?
Yes.
That's not a typical instrument for someone to start on.
Yeah, my father. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a bluegrass player or?
Yeah, he's a bluegrass player.
Nice.
You got it.
Nice. NAMM is coming up in January at Anaheim. And I remember, I think it was last year, could have been the year before, in the Yamaha room, they had some special guests, Yamaha artists who were bluegrass players. Just incredible what people can do with a musical instrument when they're really proficient. It doesn't really matter what the instrument is when someone's excellent at it. But I can imagine you must have said, no, I want to be louder than that banjo. So I'm going to pick the trombone. What was it that got you to the trombone?
Well, the trombone all happened because when I found out that they were making the voices on the Charlie Brown cartoons with the trombone, for some reason, when I was younger, I was like, that's cool. I want to do that.
That's a good impetus. But then it gets serious after that, after a while, if you're going to get good at it, right? So I'm guessing you must have played in your high school orchestra and youth orchestra. You went to Berkeley, if I understood correctly, right? So tell us about your decision to be pursuing music.
I went to Berkeley.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't really imagine doing anything else from a young age. I just knew that that's what I was going to do because it was all I really was focusing on. And when I was in school and everything, like I was fascinated with different subjects, but I never really cared as deeply as I did about music. And I just knew that that's what I wanted to dedicate my life to, probably when I was in like middle school, I believe.
All right. Well, that's good that you had an idea that soon. I think a lot of us, when we have ideas in middle school, they tend to fade into other ideas or just lost dreams in some cases. The reality of other things gets in the way, and something we wanted to pursue, we didn't have an opportunity to. So that's great. When you went to Berkeley, did you pursue jazz trombone or classical, or is it a mix? How does it go at Berkeley?
Yeah, it's primarily jazz is what I studied.
Okay. So a lot of big band and that kind of thing too?
Lots of big bands, more than I can even count. Tons of big bands. And what's cool about being a trombone player is there's not as many of us as other instruments. So what you'll find is if you do pursue the trombone, that you get opportunities that other instruments didn't have because there's actually a lack of trombone players. So
Interesting.
you kind
Okay.
of, yeah, you kind of get some cool opportunities because you play trombone compared to other instruments, which some people don't realize that. They don't realize that. They think that there's not as many because there's not as many trombone players, but actually, I found it to be the opposite.
That's interesting. So let me ask, you may know, you may not know, is that the same kind of case for a tuba player also?
It might be. It might be. I never been in those shoes though, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as a trombone player, being in those shoes, I did notice that I was able to get some opportunities because of the lack of serious trombone players.
I got you. And I would think, as I'm answering my own question, I haven't seen too many tuba players in a big band, and there's only typically one in an orchestra where you have maybe three trombones, plus maybe a
Mm.
bass trombone. So I'm guessing there are more opportunities for trombonists as I as I think about my question, but it's all good. I know
Yeah.
you also recorded some trombone with string orchestra as part of your work. I guess I should ask, what do you like? What do you like most about playing the trombone? And then we'll get to some of the other things that we talked about prior to starting the record button about your business and being able to help other people who are in the business of teaching music generally.
Mhm. Yeah, so I guess what I like the most about the trombone is how it most can emulate the male voice, like my voice, you know. It's in my range.
Mm-hmm.
It's in my range. So it feels like it's a real fit because it's like it's just almost like an extension of my speaking voice. And I also love that it does have the potential to have a higher range and a lower range than almost any other instrument.
Kind of like the
So the
cello in that
range
regard,
aspect
huh?
of it,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, similar, yeah. But it can even go lower though.
Yeah.
Unless, you know, the cello you got to do the tuning knobs, but with the trombone
Right.
you can do some like fake embouchures, some pedal embouchures,
Hmm.
and you can really make it lower than audible.
Wow. Okay. So just you can feel the vibration basically.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And the same with the higher range. I've heard trombones play higher than, you know, higher lead trumpet players. They
Wow.
can go that high. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And I'm sure that must take a lot of practice to control then.
Sure. Yeah. Fast, controlled, relaxed air.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like altissimo on a sax or something like that, I'm guessing.
Hmm.
Probably. So when you graduated Berkeley, what was your goal?
Well, I knew I had to do something related to the trombone. There was no other way, so I was going to figure it out no matter what. And I made it a point to meet as many people as possible. So that was the first thing. It's like I just need people to know that I exist and that I play the trombone, and from that, we'll see what happens.
Yep.
And that was really my only goal.
How did you go about doing that?
I did that first before the internet by holding a trombone throughout. When I was at Berkeley, I held a trombone in my hand and I walked everywhere with that trombone so everyone knew I played the
That's a
trombone.
great
I
calling
went to
card.
the,
That is so good.
yeah, I just
Okay.
always had the trombone in my hand. If I was in the student lobby, if I was in the elevator, if I was walking, I had a trombone in my hand
Yep.
out of the case, holding it. So then everyone's like, oh, this person plays trombone. I got this thing going on. Hey, I got this thing going on. This person plays trombone. And they just knew I played the trombone. So that's what I did before. Then when the internet came about, I posted a ton of videos so everyone knew I played the trombone. And that's all I ever like, that's all my focus was. I just, people need to know that I play the trombone. And then we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I guess what happened is people not only knew you played it, but they asked you to play it and they probably asked you back after that.
Yeah, it led to all kinds of opportunities, people putting me on their projects, people, I'd be front and center and they're like, oh yeah, there's that trumpet player. I saw him. And then they'd reach out and it'd lead to sessions, gigs, performances, and all that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Now you're a friend of Jessica Hattie. If I have that right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
just
Yep.
and we interviewed Jessica earlier in our podcast series. And one of the things she
She's a
mentioned,
very bright person.
yes, and a great violin player.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
one of the things that she mentioned to me was that you have an approach for music teachers that helps them either getting students or helping their students or maybe even helping themselves as a process of teaching. And I'd be very
That's correct.
intrigued to hear what you have to say, what you've learned about teaching, and also I think just to carry on what you just were mentioning about like once the internet came, you put your videos out. We can all put out
Hmm.
videos. The question is, how can we get people to actually watch them, follow them, come back and want to get more information from us, things like that. So it's
Hmm.
not enough to just be a frog croaking next to the lily pond. You got to actually make sure that some other frog hears you, right? So, what have you
Totally.
learned? What do you do, and what do you recommend generally?
Okay, so when I left Berkeley, I was faced with a massive student loan debt that I needed to conquer. And even if I paid the minimums on it, that thing would have been with me till my 70s. And it would have been very high balance. So I had to figure some things out. So I put myself out there thinking that, oh, if I put videos up, I can get them monetized with AdSense and then Google will pay me some revenue and everything. And then didn't quite, reach the amount that you needed. And then I gave out an album I had for free in exchange for people's email addresses. I wrote a trombone method book. And that trombone method book, when I sent it out to that email list, because I didn't even have an email list before, I was able to really do quite well from that one email. And then that led me on the path of studying like marketing and studying like how to monetize what you do online. Then I created some trombone courses, some improvisation courses. And I just started to study everything, David, and realized the power of what you could do on the internet. And I had some wins. I was able to pay off my whole college student loan by teaching music online. And then I figured out some ways to be more efficient with it. And then other musicians started to come to me because I would tell my friends what I was doing and I would like teach them and then they would get results and then they started to tell their friends. And then I ended up creating a company just from how it grew naturally. And then we figured out some models that can really help musicians to monetize their area of expertise online. And yeah, I mean, there's more I can get into, but
Yeah, well,
that's
let's
kind of
let's let's
in a
ask Rick what.
nutshell.
Yeah, what's the name of your company?
It's Passion Builders Online.
Okay, and at passionbuilders.com, or what's the address?
Yeah, passionbuildersonline.com. Yeah. And then,
Passionbuildersonline.com. Okay.
yep, yep.
And does your approach, before we get into maybe some details, do you think it works for all musicians, all instruments? I mean, all teachers, all
It
instruments, or
actually it actually works for all individuals that have something they can teach people.
okay,
It's just I chose to only work with musicians because that's my world. I love musicians. I love to be around musicians, and I figured out how to translate that type of marketing speak, sales speak for musicians that works for our market.
okay.
So,
Well, I guess we could start with maybe like what are the top three or five, however many you think are the top things that we could mention in the time that we have that would be things for other teachers to
yeah.
think about when they're going online, or if they're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
online,
Okay.
they're
First,
yeah.
sounds good, David. So the first thing that I recommend is to create a group program. So if you're teaching one-on-one lessons or something like that, like you can keep doing what you're doing. However, try to add an element of a group program online because what you can do is you can charge a premium for it. You will be in a situation where there'll be three elements of it. There'll be a roadmap, which you have pre-recorded content that you created. There will be a community where the students can engage with each other, and then you'll do a couple calls a week with your students. And what that does is it allows your students to have a really amazing supportive environment. And what we found is your students will actually get even better results with this environment compared to one-on-one because they have all this 24/7 support. And then if you charge a premium rate, just and it's no different than what they'd pay one-on-one, David. So like let's say $100 an hour one-on-one, a year with you, they're going to be spending $5,200. Okay.
Right.
So you can charge, I recommend starting to charge about like $5,000 per student and then create these group programs here. And then you just choose how many students you want to work with. So let's say you got like 20 students and you charge 5,000 per student. Well, you just gave yourself a little raise of $100,000 a year. And that's
Okay.
just how it can start. So yeah, yeah. And then the type of people that invest in these music education programs, committed students are who they are. They're committed students. So they don't have to be professional musicians. Like sometimes we think is that everyone wants to be a professional musician like us if they're interested in music, but people can still enjoy it and benefit from it. Just like if I were to study karate or something, I don't want to be a professional karate person, but I can still benefit and be committed student towards it. Same with the ideal students for these type of programs. And as long as they're committed and they're a good fit for something like this. So there's two stages of it. There's what I call the stage one, and that's where we'll pre-sell it. We'll enroll the first batch of students, have like a member cap for that, have a start date, and then you build it out with the first batch of students. Once it's cool, once it's proven, you build it out with the first batch of students. You can go to stage two, which is called the evergreen stage.
Mhm.
And in that stage, we can just turn on applications when we want more people to like turn on more traffic when we want more applications of people to work with us in this.
Mhm.
And that we can do through advertisements and everything. So it's essentially an ad, a free class. And then if it makes sense, you want to apply for this, here's an application. And then you can turn it on and off depending on how many students you want to work with. But what we found, David, was with this model that musicians can have control over their time, increase their earnings, and get their students really amazing results. So once I saw this in my own life, I made it almost my company's mission to help more musicians thrive more financially than any other resource that's existed in history. And after working with hundreds of musicians, we found that this model is the one that's allowing musicians to finally get the home they want, finally
Hmm.
retire loved ones and people their spouses so they don't have to work and spend more time with their kids and their families and invest in the projects they want to invest in because they finally have the funds for it. So it's like now that I've seen all this happen and we have all these case studies of everything, it's like I'm just on a mission now to really spread the word as much as possible in what's possible in this time period because we have these tools at our fingertips that we did not in the past as musicians.
It sounds great. I think a couple things that come to mind as you're telling that story. One would be like, that everybody only has so much time for themselves. There's only 24 hours in a day, and you got to sleep sometimes. So the rest of the time you could be teaching if you wanted to be, right? Whatever. But there's only so much time that you have. So does your approach network well between teachers so that if somebody had more than they could handle, they could find other teachers in a network
Yeah,
to expand that student
absolutely.
base? Yeah.
Absolutely. So you do it, you can do it yourself. And if you want some other teachers in your own school we're basically creating schools, right?
Yeah.
And if you have some other help, you can have them be coaches in your program. And then we have my clients do that too. And it works out great. And I have coaches too in my program.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. And you kind of create your own little school is what you're doing.
Yeah. And when you have students who are committed, I mean, it's always great to have committed students. And the times when I've taught music or math or whatever I've taught, it's pretty engaging as a teacher when you have a committed student. It's not so much that the opposite necessarily is true, because I try to be as professional as I can be with anybody who wants to learn, even if they don't want to learn. But I think it's easier when a student wants to learn. But I'm sure you've seen many cases, you've taught many students where somebody who was committed starts to be less committed. And my question for you on that is, how do you have in your program any way to try to redirect that so that the student can find that commitment again?
Well, that's what the community does is because with one-on-one lessons, it's kind of behind a curtain. So it's just the accountability is based on you and the teacher. So with these communities, it's constantly thrown in their face all these other people that are getting results, and nobody wants to be the underdog here. So what happens is it naturally motivates them and lights them up in ways that we did not ever see before with teaching one-on-ones.
Yeah. And I guess the trick too is to be able to understand where that student is in their progress, and then make sure that they have
Mhm.
realistic goals for themselves so that they can, I don't want to say the word compete, but I think we're talking about a little bit of social pressure for competition, kind of. So, but you don't want to put someone in a spot where they feel like they could never compete with so and so, so much better, that kind of thing.
So exactly, David. So that's a great, it's a great statement. So what we can do in that situation, remember in college when there was like the studio master classes for each instrument? I remember I'd be a freshman, there'd be the seniors, the upperclassmen, the professors, the grad students, all in one spot for your instrument. So what happens is that's kind of how these communities are. So I recommend like maybe you have a beginner call. Then you have a call for more advanced students. And then you have one that's like your studio class where all the levels are together. And then the earlier in the roadmap students, they're inspired by the later in the roadmap students. And the later in the roadmap students are reminded of the fundamentals when they're sharing with the beginning of the roadmap. And it's like the synergy that happens with everyone. So when you create a program like that, then everyone feels taken care of no matter what their level is.
Yeah, and I think that sense of community would be very important too, because as I know we both appreciate, particularly with AI generated music and other things that are surrounding computer based music, the human element, or at least to me anyway, it's the most important part of the whole thing. So having a community where you can relate to other people as opposed to just like you push the button, you generated whatever came out of it, is really critical.
Yeah, yeah. If you make a community and an offer all about human connections, then you can never be replaced about with AI. So that's what I recommend. Recommend you create, if you're going to teach, you make it all about human connections and you really sell that. Sell that the whole reason that you're doing this is for that human connection. And if you do that and that's front and center in your messaging, then no AI could ever compete with that because it's literally based on human connection.
Yeah, and you personally. So it's all about you then.
Exactly.
That's great. What kind of
Exactly.
what kind of projects do you have coming up, Paul?
I'm doing a bossa album, almost done with that. So it's going to be all Brazilian music. It's
Nice.
me with full orchestration, flutes, Barry
Wow, great.
clarinet,
Great.
and
When is
like
that coming out?
that's coming out January.
Okay.
Hopefully
Well,
by January, first week of January, somewhere around there.
and do you have an opportunity to go perform what you've written live so that we could go and hear it too, as opposed to just stream it?
Yeah, well, that's the plan. I'm working on a steady. I'm in the talks for creating a steady situation with my group. It would probably be in the Pasadena area.
Okay. Is that where you're
So
located
there's
in
that. But
SoCal?
I did like a yeah. I
Uh-huh.
did a yeah, Southern California, yep. And then I did a private event last night.
Mhm.
Just I'm trying to get something steady going on that the public can go to.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I'm just trying to put the pieces of what you're suggesting together, it could be easy for someone who's in the online teaching world to kind of stay behind that curtain and not be out in front of people performing or meeting people or carrying your trombone around with you to let people know what you do in real life, you know? So I think it would be important to make sure that you keep those gigging opportunities open, what for you personally and for anybody else who's picking up on the methods that you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, it's for your sanity. You know, you can't forget why we started all this in the first place. Like, I don't want to just be staring at a computer my whole life, like, so I need to be
Yeah.
out there. And I'm around the computer a lot. I mean, it's part of my world, but you got to be out there. You got to experience life, experience the world. And that's why we did this in the first place. That's why we picked up the instruments in the first place, is to perform it in front of people in real life.
It is true. It is true, Paul. So I don't
Although
know.
I do perform on the internet. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't know if you know I played jazz piano here at a local hotel in San Diego for 16 years, once or twice a week from 94 to 2010. And I really do enjoy gigging from time to time. In fact, one of my upcoming things, I'm playing saxophone at my Boy Scouts. My son was a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout, and they have me back to play their Christmas party every year. So it's one of my favorite, very relaxing gigs to do, and it's nice just to get out. So for everybody who's particularly an orchestral composer like me, just go pick up your instrument and try to find a venue where people can enjoy your performance. It's a whole different world, and it reconnects you with everybody that you're wanting to have your music connect with.
Yeah, and you can talk to what I love is the people you meet and the places you see. You see
Exactly.
interesting places when you do gigs. Like it takes you to places you normally would never go experience, and it's because you were performing there that you go there, or else you never would go there. And you see people that you would normally never see, and it makes you experience life.
Yeah. Paul, give us the website again for your business.
It's passionmillersonline.com, and there's a free
Passion.
class on there if anyone's interested.
Okay. And anybody who plays any instrument or teaches any instrument can go there, find some resources, get in touch with you. Is that the best place to go to get in touch with you?
Yeah, there's a way to get in touch on there. You can follow me on Instagram, which is Paul the Trombonist. That's another way.
All right. That sounds good. We're going to listen to some more of you playing on the way out here, Paul. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I want to wish you all the best for your album release. And if you would do me the favor of letting me know like a week in advance of when it's coming out, we'll be sure to be able to help promote that for you. And if there's anything else that we can do at the Symphonina
Oh, wow, you're
Foundation,
nice.
if there's anything we can do at the Symphonina Foundation to be of help to you, just let us know.
Appreciate you very much, David.